So when I first went to the seminary, this strange thing had just happened before that, where China was persecuting this Buddhist temple, so they get kicked out of China, and they come to the United States, but it sounds kind of strange. They made their way to California, but when they came to the United States, they came through Portland. So they did stay a while at the monastery, this Benedictine monastery that the seminary ran. And I love that image because you had these Benedictine monks in these black robes, and then you had these Buddhist monks in these, like reddish orange robes. Just call it a wild contrast, and all of them living together under one roof. And I just thought that was so strange. I was so young. And so I mentioned it to one of the priests and the monks. And the monk said, well, they're fellow monks of a sort, and they're persecuted, and so we're just giving you a house for a while. But he said, what you have to understand is that priests are functionary. Like diocesan priests like me, I'm really functionary. It's not like I'm praying 24/7. I have a lot of paperwork. It's kind of management in a way. Does that make sense? So it's a functionary. But monks, they are devoted to a life of prayer and spiritual service. So they're not functionaries. They're kind of spiritualists. And I thought, well, that does make sense. So then the Buddhist monks made their way to California. And I always appreciated monks because they really devote themselves to prayer. And then later we had this retreat from this guy named William McNamara. And William McNamara is this priest hermit from Canada who years ago he died, but was this great mystic, just incredible person. And he gave us a retreat, and he tells the story that he had this retreat with this other very famous Buddhist monk, just on prayer. And at the end of the retreat, some woman says, now look at you two. You two are the best of friends. And oddly enough, they were. They're best friends. And she said, now, if a Catholic priest and a Buddhist monk can be close friends, why can't we just get rid of all the religious differences and all of us come together? And I thought it was interesting because William McNamara and the Buddhist monk both said absolutely not. And I love this, where they said, the reason why we're friends is that we went to the mystical core of our religion. And there in the mystical core, that's where we discovered each other. Simply washing away the differences between Catholicism and Buddhism, it wouldn't make us friends. They said, we have serious disagreements between Catholicism and Buddhism. But yes, we love each other because we've gone to the core of our religion. And McNamara said this, is that at the very core of all reality is the heart of Christ. That unites us all together. Now, the Buddhists wouldn't call that Christ, the heart of all reality. But he said, what does it matter if they don't call it the Buddhist monk? He actually has touched the heart of Christ. And I like that anybody who's really gone to the mystical core of their religion, what they've really found is the heart of Christ, and that unites us together. And even William McNamara said he didn't believe all religions have a mystical core, or that all people even drill down to the heart of religion. Sometimes people are religious because it gives them power or whatever. But I love the idea that if you touch the heart of Christ, you're actually united with everybody else's heart. That brings about true unity and compassion, true unity and community. And I mention that because the readings really are about community and unity, that in the resurrection, we have real community. And the problem is that throughout history, people try and build community outside of the heart of Christ, and it never goes well. Like the worst example is Chairman Mao. Just, if you don't know who he is, he was in charge of the communist China. And in the revolution, he wanted to build a society where people are rational and think. And one of his mottos was, dare to think. Well, who's going to argue with that? That sounds great. Except when he takes over, what happens is that anybody who thinks differently than him, he simply killed. And Mao killed more people than Hitler and Stalin combined. Somewhere about like 60 million to 100 million people. But he wanted to build a society where it was all rational. So he burned churches, destroyed Buddhist temples, and made himself the center. And all it brought about was death. And it sounds like he was going to build this great community, but it was horrible. Even like he forced certain segments to work constantly. No day of rest. All you have is production and work. And then he only gave some people enough sleep, barely enough sleep, to continue to work. And if you complained, he'd either torture you or kill you. So if you think you have problems with your boss, try Mao. I mean, wow. But the problem is, every time humans try and build community on something other than the divine, it never really works out. And I mention that because they've done several studies of modern United States where kind of the theology or the philosophy of community over the last couple generations has decreased and decreased. So now it's all about the individual. People actually sacrificing or living or giving for a sense of community, they've studied this, social psychologists, has gone way down. So now, do you know who donates the most in time or giving to causes, blood, and all that other stuff? It's actually religious people. They give the most because at least you have a sense of community. And the people that give the absolute most tends to be the oldest generation that's religious. They grew up with this sense that, no, it's about the family and community. The younger generation, I hate to say this, they only think about themselves. What about me? It should be about me. And so they give the least. The people that give the absolute least, no offense, are atheists and people who call themselves spiritual but not religious. They give it the exact same rate, which is the lowest. They might call themselves spiritual, but the only thing they're really thinking about is themselves. A truly spiritual person, they've gone to the core, which is the heart of Christ, which connects you to everybody. So the readings are really all about community. The gospel reading, which I loved, Thomas missed the resurrection of Christ. Christ keeps coming back every Sunday at the breaking of the bread. And Thomas is out on himself. He missed Christ because he separated himself from the worshiping community. And so when they tell him, you missed Christ, Christ was at the breaking of the bread, he just refuses to believe it. And the point being is that if you cut yourself off from community, then Christ becomes this untouchable reality. If it's all just about you alone, then you've really, the idea of the resurrection, it's just kind of this idea, ghostly image. So Thomas's mistake was cutting himself off from the community. And I have to defend Thomas because I really like Thomas. But you'll hear, I hate it when people say doubting Thomas. And they say that. I don't like that because it makes it sound like all Thomas needed was a good catechism lesson. Thomas had the same exact teacher as the rest of the 10 apostles, right? He was taught by Christ. It wasn't a question of teaching or belief. He had the same beliefs. His problem was that he cut himself off from the community. It's in community that we discover Christ. And I love the part where Christ does appear the next Sunday, this Sunday, and says to Thomas for him to touch his wounds. There's great theology there. That if you explore the wounds of Christ, and you have to think, well, what are the wounds of Christ? He commands him to touch his wounds. Why is a resurrected Christ bearing nail marks and a cut in his heart and his feet? If he's resurrected, shouldn't he be healed of all that? But the idea is this. To touch the wounds of the body of Christ is to touch the wounds of humanity. For you to explore, really, the wounds of humanity, what you will find is Christ. I love that. I find that actually to be very true, so that's why he commands it. Like, just this week, I've had 3 funerals, but one of them was this woman named Christine. She used to sit right there at the 5 o'clock Mass, and I have to say, I love Christine, but she is one of the most colorful figures that I've ever met. She was one of the more colorful figures in our parish. But if you met Christine, like, she was just overflowing with love and compassion, just embraced other people. Very, very non-judgmental. But like I said this about her, like, when God created Christine, he used every crayon in the box because she was a super colorful person. And she was, and this I think is kind of funny because, when she was here, she was in her 80s. But in her younger days, she was a Playboy bunny. So, like, that's the first funeral I've had of a Playboy bunny. And her nephew said that when she's from Chicago originally, when she would drive to Chicago, she had this, like, pink Cadillac, and she would show up, and her mother, who was always in the kitchen cooking, Christine, would show up and sit there all day long, and the two of them would just roar with laughter because Christine was just the life of the party. But the problem is that early on, Christine had a problem with alcoholism. And so she does go to AA, and she has decades of sobriety. But if you know anything about, like, AA people, because of their wound, their addiction, they practice compassion really well. AA people, they practice community well. They don't reject people because of their faults and mistakes. They welcome other people. And so when you met Christine, you met somebody who very non-judgmental, somebody who just wanted to love other people. And so, yeah, at her funeral, a lot of AA people showed up. And I just have to credit her that her wound, her alcoholism, really became this source of mercy for other people who are wounded. And I also like that because today is also Divine Mercy Sunday. Now, you might not know what that is. Divine Mercy Sunday, for the last 9 days, certain people have been praying this Divine Mercy prayer. And it comes from this Polish nun who I just admire. And the Polish nun, she had these revelations of Christ, the Divine Mercy. And I have found this Polish nun very provocative. Like, I find that she challenges me, so I really like her. And she said that some people in religion, they've grown lukewarm. Some people in the Catholic Church, they don't really, I'm paraphrasing, they don't have a great love for Christ. What they love is the power it gives them or other things. And with the Divine Mercy, you pray it so that you receive divine mercy, but also that your wounds and your heart becomes a font of divine mercy for other people. And in some ways, that was Christine. Her wound of alcoholism became a great source of community and mercy towards other people. And so on Divine Mercy Sunday, yeah, we're praying that we who know and touch the heart of Christ, that our hearts become fonts of mercy for other people who are wounded in the world. So yes, Christ commands Thomas to explore the wounds of the body of Christ, the wounds of humanity. And then our eyes will be open to find the presence of Christ. And then after that, he breathes on them and gives them his Spirit so that we, our community, can be this source of forgiveness and mercy in the world. So it's about community and becoming this font of mercy. And so, like the first reading, it says the early church was of one heart and one mind. And there the resurrected Christ shone. Great things were done. I think if we come together as a community and touch the very core of religion, as the monk said, all of us become united together. And like Christine, I hope we have nothing but this overflow of compassion for the wounds of people in the world, that from our wounds flows divine mercy. And so the heart of all religion, I do believe, is the heart of Christ. We touch that, and we become this image of community and mercy for the world. And so, together, let us stand